Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today we've got a psychological analysis of the community itself, where it's at currently, what's gone on in recent time, what could happen in the future, and what supposedly happened in the past. This is to better people off at times, so you know what to expect, so you may know how to deal with situations in the present or the future. This is exactly what I've done within the Dylan Rounds case community when it was needed most. I'm going to apply what I know from then and link it to now. But take in mind, whilst we can say experience, when it came to the Dylan Rounds case, before that, in terms of that type of drama or conflict, I didn't really have that experience, but I just knew that's when you know it's under control in certain areas. So I can still apply it today. Be sure to stick around from start to finish if you can. You don't have to visually watch. If you just want to listen in whilst you're getting on with other things, you can do so. But if you wanted to look at body language or whatever else, you can sit down if you want. But we might go over a range of different topics, might go from one thing to another. This is just natural. There's no script whatsoever. Everything that I'm about to talk about today is from in here. No writing, no bullet points, because it's just not practical. I have tried it in the past and then I get confused. I might end up missing out on details. I'd rather just go with the flow. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then other times I watch it back and I think, oh God, did I really say that? Did I really do that? That's more to do with the dodgy videos, right? But welcome to those that are currently hearing this live premiere. Share your thoughts, opinions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. If you are watching later on catch up, leave your comments and thoughts down below under the video, and that can apply to anyone. If you've got questions, if you've got any answers, you want to share your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree with my analysis psychologically to do with the case, the community, where you can let me know. You'll also find a pinned comment down below with additional links if you do want to support this channel. And if you simply want to catch up on recent coverage by me on this case, top right corner of the screen where the I symbol is, click up there and you'll find the drop down box. First of all, big shout out to Victor last night for their support on the channel. That was a big surprise, very positive to see. I also want to acknowledge that in regards to the Dylan Rounds case, for anyone that is interested, maybe I could provide the link if possible down below in the comment section, or maybe on the channel page, we'll just see. New details have come out regarding the Casey investigation. Whilst the case has come to a close and it reached a head, an outcome and a form of justice reached, as we all know, as part of sensitive details, photos after the court and all that, it's now been released publicly. And whilst yes, a video can be done about it, let me tell you something, it is pretty overwhelming. Just looking at the photo file of all the evidence, photos of the area, items, gun charges and all of that, there's thousands upon thousands of photos and some duplicates. It'd probably take forever to get through. And honestly, because the case has come to a head, a close, you're only just reflecting on it. It ain't got the same feel about it, right? You know, like how when I do my videos, it's because it's to do with an ongoing case. I don't tend to look back at cases that have already been completed. I might look back at cases which have gone cold, but they're still ongoing, meaning there is something to do, something to talk about and think. But if it's already been solved, I just don't really see the point, if I'll be honest with you. And I know there's other YouTube channels where they'll tell a story about what's happened with a case or a serial killer. They do the case files, but I don't tend to do that. I don't do like a full-on story in one video. I do it bit by bit, block by block, and if it is ongoing, well then that's what enables me to do what I do. I make a video on what's currently available and then later do more. Whereas if it's all been collected in one massive go and you've got to try and cover it all, it's too much. And on top, when it's already been solved, what's the point? If the purpose is to spread awareness, but technically awareness has already been spread about the main original points, then yeah, maybe if there's time, if there is ever time, which probably not, I could have a brief look at the stuff, but you know, it just don't have the same feel or atmosphere now. It's got to be a certain way for me to be able to lock in, and it's just not quite like that now. And to be honest, you know, with the trouble in the past, and if I returned to that case, what bad things would happen? Is it really worth it? Is it really worth risking it in which I cover it and then I come back to the Noah Presgrove case and then I've brought over a disease, a plague? I don't think it's worth that. It would probably go against this psychological analysis today. So I've got to try and keep things somewhat balanced. So let's just focus in on Noah Presgrove for now, the community. You might wonder, why does it matter, first of all? That could be the first question in this video. Why does it matter that it's covered about the community aspect, the state it's in, what it has been, what it could be? Well, first of all, it's because I've already done a psychological video to do with the party, the events, and the people present. Psychological emotions, responses, reactions, which can guide people in a certain direction physically and mentally, and then that can lead to other things happening, good or bad. And within the Noah Presgrove case, what was the psychological response and feelings regarding Noah after the side-by-side rollover? Was it, must dust myself off, must have a shower, or not quite sure, bit dazed, bit confused? What were the psychological responses from those nearby? Any of the girls that may have helped wash Noah? What was the response by Jack, hearing or seeing upon it? Jealous or what? Different things which can lead on. And then the ultimate part was when Noah supposedly walked off at the final time, supposedly 3:30, even though there's earlier times as when he did walk off, unless that was a separate event, but let's just stick with 3:30. Noah wanders off, but in the process there was like an argument here or there, the bedroom debacle, and was a psychological response triggered by a certain action from Noah, so then that led to an emotional guidance towards Noah, in which Noah walks away, a magnetizing effect in which the other person hasn't quite finished with what they got to say, so they chase after Noah, and then things escalate. They're the examples of what I was getting at there. I've already done that. We could possibly add on in the future, but that will do for now. So now it's time to focus on the community part. That's why we're doing it. But if that's not good enough, the other reason as to why this is being done is because I can do it. And I do have an idea. And I did make predictions in a very, very short space of time, faster than ever. And it worked. Not that I wanted it to work, but just because of what I sensed. Yeah, not good. Where do we start first of all? The current state of the community as a whole is somewhat fragmented, and the level of trust issues, because one another or certain ones out there have effed others over, you don't know what to think, you don't know what to do, what to believe, where do you go, you're lost. I'm not saying everyone is, but that's how it can come about. That's how you can feel in the moment. And the key thing is that War Like Wrath is on YouTube. I've got my own channel. Because I've got my own YouTube channel, whatever shit goes on elsewhere on other pages, communities, groups, whatever, and not directly to do with me, it could be to do with other events, whether I'm involved or not, whether I'm dragged in or not, things can happen, and things already have happened. But where do I go at the end of it? I just come back here to my channel, what I've created, what I've established, and hopefully it continues onwards in time, hopefully. No guarantee, being realistic, but there's something to fall back on, right? Yeah, I might come across cases, but it's not directly because of Facebook, it's not directly because of Reddit. It'll be because of people on my channel, regular or new viewers that just come on in and say, have you heard about this case? And then that's what makes me think, oh, I'll just have a little look here and there, and then it progresses from. So the origins of it all, the ideas, the suggestions, how it all begins is from YouTube, the platform which I just happen to be on, which I am one of only few individuals, if not maybe the only one left within this case. Because at the end of the day, mate, I could read some cards out to you. I don't know what the fuck that was. Well, as for references, that's just like a petty individual that had an issue with me. Okay, I can do better accents and stuff, but as previously I said that it was mainly just me and maybe a couple of odd individuals covering this case on and off. No, I am the only one. That's a fact. I am the only one on YouTube. I am the only one standing still. If humans tell me or guide me or force me to do this or that, which could impact the channel, it would be non-negotiable in the sense of, no, that's not the best approach. That's probably not a good idea. And, some people could, put their backs up a little bit, but the only reason why I'm still able to do what I do despite a range of different bad things happening over time to me, online at least, the reason why I can keep on going and why I'm still here is because of appropriate language and wording, the timing, right place, right time, and just how you go about things. A lot of other people could be very reckless, get too close to get burnt by the fire. So if you do become in the presence of others, or others come into the presence of you, maybe you're seen as a beacon or as a marker, but you can't be controlled too much. And whilst emotional language could be used, or blackmail, emotional manipulation, any of that, could steer you in an unnatural direction compared to what you normally would do. So you're drifting away from your true self or your true channel just to please or satisfy others. Or if not that, just follow orders. This is an individual YouTube channel. Okay, there isn't like a chain of command or hierarchy as some might make it out to be in the past with other cases and stuff with information. But this is just like a side thing, but it can apply to the community that, yeah, there's good things that can happen, but then there can be like a forceful presence, and that's just not a good idea. People may be very passionate, people may be very, all in about the case directly and on the sideline with certain key individuals who could be exposed or called out, but there's a way around it all, and that can be applied in today's video. It could be vague, but that's for good reason, but some people make sure to listen in because it could help. But before we even get to that point, the current state, as I said, is a little bit fragmented. Pages have been created, groups have been created, possibly really early on in the case. Take in mind, I wasn't even around at the start, so I missed out on a lot, but I catched up quick in a short space, and I still managed to make my predictions quicker than ever. So in the past, maybe there were some problems, but maybe not as many as in recent time. Where I noticed where it really kicked off was just before the 1-year anniversary of Noah Presgrove, where you had some of Noah's family at it with Justin Roy and some members on the army page and vice versa. A bit tense. And it still has kind of carried on over in a small way, maybe like a bit tense at times. And as you'll see the post and the comments of, let's get back on track, let's do this, let's refocus. You've already lost control when you've got to try and either convince yourself or convince the masses. We've got to remember what's most important here, the case of Noah. If you have to remind yourself from there on, then clearly the battle has been lost already. Okay? And that might sound very dark, but that's what I am. And I'm realistic, not delusionally positive. Either way, I can explain it bit by bit, and it's not as an insult. This is meant as a non-participant observation, an overt one, which I've noticed with time, and I've seen it in the past. And the reason why I can compare it is because it just so happens that within the Dylan Rounds case YouTube streets, maybe it wasn't all about Dylan, but ties and connections with people and communities. Let's all remind ourselves we should be having fun here. It doesn't have to be too serious. We don't have to be going after one another. We need to stop all the hate. We need to stop the resistance. We need to stop the drama and all this and that. And other people agree, yeah, get the tissues out and cry. Wow. And then what happens the next day? Repetitive cycle all over again. Got to convince people, got to convince yourself, but is it natural or is it a form of desperation, a defense mechanism within the subconscious mind or even the unconscious mind in trying to gain back control? Maybe it's a sign that one has lost control in the first place, or a range have become lost. At least when it comes to this channel, somewhat under control, covering the case, spreading awareness, trying to make sense of it. In the Dylan Rounds case, whether I made a big impact or not, that's not for me to say. But what I did state was I can try and keep the case alive, spread a bit of awareness and do what I can. Minimal, putting oneself out there, but not like, what do you call it? You under promise, over deliver. That's basically what I did. So I'm trying to play it here too. Because if you overpromise, higher expectations, higher pressure, more tense, more uncomfortable, not a good outcome because it could impact your performance. And when it comes to performance, you want to be at your best, or at least try to be. And if you can minimize factors which cause issues along the way, you do that. But a microcosm within this case is there is a lot going on and there's many things at hand. The party itself, many people present, supposedly. The community aspect, many people present as well, general public and those within the case, or those connected to those within the case. Bigger the audience, bigger the groups, more pages, more groups, more eyes, more opportunities for things to go wrong. Just like how you let people into your own country, you let more in and more and more and more, whether that be by plane or boat. What do you think will happen in the end? Something's going to go wrong. Recklessness, that lack of control, becomes unstable. And in a case where you want justice or you want answers, if it becomes unstable, do you think that's what you're going to achieve? Answers? No. There'll be more questions than answers. There'll be a lot of bloatware, like when you get computers and phones, lots of unnecessary apps, data and storage, which doesn't need to be there, but it's made its presence somehow. Does that mean you've got to cleanse and clear out the dead weight? Well, you do what you need to do, but how do you prevent it in the first place? Well, maybe that can come towards the end of this video, because what's happened has already happened. You can't stop that now. It's already been done. But will it repeat again? Will history repeat itself? Who knows? Now, some people may think this is very vague, but once again, for good reason. There's time and place for everything. But you saw me made references to just before the 1 year anniversary, family frustrated with Justin Roy, claims made about stuff in the background, claims made of harassment, not stepping back when asked to. But then you've got people on the army page seen as attacking the family and saying bad things. All over the place, high emotions, but clearly not everybody's on the same wavelength, not everybody has the same common goal, and we don't need to talk in some kind of delusional do-gooder way, but just simple as, are you here to cover the case, yes or no? Are you here just to learn about the case, yes or no? Are you here to do a mixture of that and also support the case in some way? I mean, anyone can come on in. Anyone can watch, anyone can listen. And I don't just mean here, but I mean like on Facebook and the online communities where maybe some of the trouble comes from. Because the ground zero, the main stronghold would be the platform of Facebook, because of the groups, the official group as well, or page, whichever one you want to call it. On Facebook, the justice page. Then you got the army page. And at least up to a certain point, that's all I knew of. But then you got almost like sub-cell divisions and smaller groups, right? It just branches off. And the more groups and the more pages with times, and even if new ones are formed and old ones are disbanded, they remain up. It becomes very convoluted, becomes too much. You don't want too many groups, you don't want too many pages, because then it's like, why do you need so many, right? Is it because, you got the big one, which is where all the answers come about and the facts, supposedly, which some people could say is questionable. Then you got the informal page where it's a bit more open, freedom of speech, but you see a lot more going on in different ways, but it's still within reason, like the army page up to a point in time. And then the other groups along the way could be somewhat serious, but what side are they batting for? Like when you get maybe the fake army page, which was dodgy, but then you get a sofa sleuth group page too. And many of them, if not all, are private. The only one that's public is the justice page, which is interesting. Reasons behind certain pages becoming private is because of the dark waves and forces of those within the case, supposedly, which were attacking the army page and things like that happening. Now, do you call that drama or conflict? You could say there's elements of it, but really, I guess there's an intent of resistance to either push back people away from the case or getting too close to the truth. It even aims to discredit one another. And other forms, divide and conquer. And some of these methods, like divide and conquer, whether it be by people involved within the case or indirectly involved, it still links to the Dylan Rounds case because that was a strategy implemented there. Not so much to harm the case directly and not by people within the case, more so just those elsewhere online which wanted to cause havoc and trouble within other communities that are out there online, hanging out together, having a good time. Let's implement a mole, a spy, an informant to come on in, build a rapport, get all nice and friendly, smile, ha ha ha, and all that, ha ha, and then offwards, fuck you, bye, and then pass on the message. Like that. Other times it's where someone comes on in pretending to be another individual who's within that community. So an imposter fake account, say bad things, be nasty to someone, so then that victim will then question and have a go at the real person who just happened to be impersonated. But those within the group may not know that happened. So then there's questioning. It implements a seed of doubt within. You infiltrate a location, a place, a page, you plant a disease and it can grow and grow and it can damage and corrupt people's minds to the point where it all implodes on itself and it's full on blown out drama and conflict. So that's why things can escalate very fast. It depends on how emotionally charged humans are, and it just so happens that the pattern and the cycle is that when it comes to true crime cases, humans tend to be emotionally charged. They're here for the case, they're here for the victim, but also they have that deep lying emotional state and emotional connection to the case somehow, somewhere. So whilst people may be able to relate better and get closer to one another, long term, that's not always a good thing. Because if there is a level of conflict of interest in terms of the emotional connection, it can blind your judgment and how you see things and how you react to stuff. And have I encountered that? No, but there might have been the odd time where not an attempt was done intentionally, but I could kind of feel that the atmosphere was changing and going a bit colder. And then I thought, what would I normally do? I might cover it. I might spread some awareness on it, but I'm going to make sure I use the correct word. And it doesn't matter what someone else has stated or said, even if it is a fact. If I've not seen it completely, I've not seen the full context, I don't see the actual screenshot, then I'm not going to state it. I'll just say, well, supposedly this has been said, supposedly that's happened, but we don't know for sure. You know, just as an example, so I can put my point across, I can defend myself, but then I can also reinforce defending myself in the future if needed, if it does lead to a backlash on that video in the first place. Perfect example, just in recent time where there was a bit of backlash and I simply said, did I say this? Did I say that? Did I actually defend you despite defending myself against you in directly attacking me? Yes. Wow. Great individual. It might sound complex, it might sound too much, but this is just going with the flow. This is my first time doing it on the Noah Presgrove case, and there's a lot more to it than the Dylan Rounds situation, but I do see the crossover. The other pattern and trends that I've noticed is that when it comes to true crime, it seems to attract criminals or ex-criminals. It's like a game of guess who. Who here hasn't got a mugshot? Who here hasn't done this or done that? And I mean, I can't speak for myself because it'll probably come across as biased, but I'll be seen as boring, average boring me because I've not done much. No mugshots, no faces on mugs or merch. A bit of play on words that. But with the Dylan Rounds case, all these people coming out and then one another exposing each other. Oh, you got a criminal record. Oh, criminal history. Oh, you got mugshots. You've done this and you've done that in the past. Oh, that person strangled someone. Oh, that person did online communication and a harassment and stalking or something. Oh, that person was stealing money. Oh, that person doing drugs. It's ridiculous. You're here to solve a case or get together. You come to a case which is true crime, and all you're surrounded by are criminals or ex-criminals. Way, great job, right? But at least when it comes to here, a bit more refined. Now, people can have a past, of course, and it doesn't apply to everyone, right? But the reality is, the pattern of you've got bad people present at times within communities who may act a certain way, toxic, negative, dark, resistance, whatever, and then later they're outed or exposed for bad things that they've done in the past. And it's like, well, that's rich coming from you. But then sometimes they can respond back and drag the other person or another person down and say, well, you've got a criminal record as well, right? Now, obviously humans can't be angels, even though technically I was regarded as one at some point, and people may find that hard to believe, but short story is, once there was a delivery at the house, I answered the door. They said, what's your name? I mentioned my name, which some will be aware of, but the guy misunderstood when I said my name, and they thought that I was called Angel. So the delivery was ordered to Angel me. Anyway, besides that, with the case and the community, you start learning more and more about different people who may have a dark side, and it could create a bit of worry or unrest within some out there thinking, who are we supposed to trust? We once talked with that individual or hung out, and now this has happened. I don't know what to think. I don't know where to go. It comes back to the theme of, where do you fall? What do you have to fall back on? And most people have nothing. So not as a coping mechanism, but more so as a means of trying to re-establish oneself or re-establish the trust, the whatever within a case. Then you might create a new Facebook page, right? Hence why there's so many now. You've got a previous group, you've got a previous page, something goes wrong, someone's outed, someone's exposed, or another person drags one another down, and then it just creates an awkward atmosphere. There might be some divide and conquer where a seed, a person is implanted within a group, causes some kind of havoc, leads to others questioning one another, full blown out war at times, who knows? And others feel the need to get away, run away. Some may just get silenced and kicked in the process through misunderstandings or petty behaviour, and then you'll collect together as a new subgroup from a previously fractured place to try and reform, re-establish yourself, and just put back in the focus to the case. But it happens maybe a little too much. If it was a one-off event, it'd be okay, right? It's probably happened a couple of times, and the more times it happens, the harder it gets. Just like with trust issues, the more time humans mess you about or things happen in many ways in life, it F's you up. More trust issues, makes it harder every effing time. Messed up, there's a lot of humans that can do it, and there's a lot of positive people out there as well that can do it too. So, being realistic, what do you do at a time like that? It's happened so many times that you just want to be able to cover a case, whether you 100% solve it, whether a little bit of progress is made, or you just at least able to breathe and think openly without not too much worry, without the attacks, without the infiltrations. I mean, you'll always get some desperate attempts by people to wiggle in. When I say fake, people to purposely pretending to be somebody else when they're not. And, you know, you might get fake accounts, but there's a reason behind it to protect themselves. Does that make sense? But we have seen maybe a handful of dodgy, questionable default people who have acted odd ways. But then again, there's been a handful of default profiles which have been good people, more so on my channel. It does vary. That's what I mean. You got to try and take it into consideration, even when the situation may be tense. But what I do want to go into now, because I can make it a bit more clearer, right? And it can tie on with, what do you do now? Or more so, if we dial it back, what do you do during a situation where you have found out things about someone or some people? Oh, is the default thing just to throw it out there, make it public so then everybody sees it? What good does that do? That's what you got to question before you even do it. How does it solve or help the case? You got to question that too before you do it. I have a certain strategy. People can take it into consideration if you want, and for others, just feel free to listen in. It's going to be basic, it might be vague, but once again, for good reason. If you, within a community, whether you're on the receiving end of somebody or some people, or you see it happening from further afar, and by some chance you gain intel or knowledge, the truth, facts, which reveals the dark side, dark forces of certain said individuals who are directly within the case, or at least just within the community, and you feel it's important to spread awareness as soon as possible, so then there's no more harm or damage done, to try and break that repetitive cycle. Whilst it may seem like, oh, now is the time, it has to be put out there, it has to be public. Could that cause more damage than it's worth? There is a chance. So how do you use it? What do you do with that info and knowledge? Well, you don't do maybe what others did, where something has been leaked, or someone intentionally leaked this or that, or someone decided to share it with someone within the case but not actually share it to the police. Being vague again for good reason. What you do, and it depends, what you have in the first place, you just rethink, where do I use it? I can use it. It can help, but maybe not publicly. And I'm not talking about the case directly, purposely hiding important knowledge, which the public have the right to listen to. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the drama, the conflict, the dark side of humans that could be with one another. And it could seem all okay and fine. And they could also be connected to family members as well, or friends of Noah, and everything is okay. But the ones on the receiving end at this moment have no clue what someone else is capable of or what's happened previously. And you might be in the middle, conflicted, wanting to spread that awareness to prevent anything from escalating later. It's like if you knew about a bomb that was planted somewhere, do you just not do anything? Do you shout it out loud? Everyone, there's a, one, it's going to blow. That'll just cause a lot of panic, a lot of disruption, a lot of trouble. Is there a way to find a back door to the right people to tell them and let them know, so then they can get on with things and sort it out, whilst the general public are blind to it for the right reasons, so there's no more escalations? That's one way of looking at it. So if you're in a situation where you've got key information, or you gained key knowledge on its facts, and it reveals a dark side behind someone, and you know that that dark force is in contact with some of the Noah Presgrove's family members or Noah's friends, then instead of just making it all public, why not just reach out to the key people in the background to just give them a nudge and say, hey, just thought you should know about this, about that, about them, considering that you are working with them, or because you are close to them, just so you don't get burnt close to the fire later. And then that could trigger a wave of actions in the background, where it's almost like you're serving the light but in the shadows. But if it works, it works, without all the public chaos and disorder. I think it makes clear sense. You don't have to be completely silent with what you may have, because you may not want to be silent, but there are ways to go about it. And whilst at first your mind may take over, whether you're emotionally charged with the case or you're very passionate, it can lead to irrational thinking. So if you just slow it down just a little bit and you think, well, what I've got is important and it can help, but I need to distribute it the right way, so then it fixes certain issues, it prevents future problems, but it also keeps things in order at this moment in time. Because what we've seen previously, a range of stuff that has come out has been kind of public or spread public, whether it's true or false, and that can have its own issues. The more it spreads, the more things escalate. Just like how originally, the more people you have present, the higher the chances that something will go wrong at some point. If you've got 2-3 people in a room having a conversation, might go okay. You've got 400 people within a room all talking. It could be very noisy, very loud, and there might be more chances of disagreements and things escalating from there. So that can resolve current issues and future issues with key info that you may have. How you distribute it is most important. If you at least reach out to the key contacts who could be harmed or could be connected to the dark forces, do that, break the cycle, chain reaction, but in a more controlled way. That's what needs to be done. It might seem easy just to throw it out there and spread it, but that can have other problems. Then it gives ammunition for some elsewhere to say, oh, I thought this was about the Noah Presgrove case, not the latest soap drama. So there can be like criticisms along the way. If it's controlled, less problems. When you defend yourself, if it's controlled, less future backlash. Now, in terms of previous problems on pages, communities, has it resurfaced again in recent time with other stuff, other issues? If we're talking about maybe divide and conquer, well, people have said that in the past, before pages went private, you had the Stevie Howards, maybe BBC, Sarah Longs, range of different people, whether it be just the parents or family connected to those within the case, either with their own profiles or alternative ones later, coming on in, saying what they say, maybe being a bit negative, form of resistance, maybe a bit discrediting and whatnot. And in terms of the responses by people with the pages was, let's make it private so then they can no longer participate. And I think when it's made private, everybody or a range of people have to request to join or so, and then it's approved of or not, I think. Or no, it's not that you kicked off, it's that you've got to now apply and join to view the stuff. So whereas before a page or group was public, basically you could go on the page, whether you signed in or not, and you could view what's on screen. But when it comes private, you go onto it, it'll say you need to join, you need to be a member. So then you click it and then you wait for it to be approved or not. So by people making the decision at the time with the army page to make it private, and I think to an extent it happened on Reddit as well, it's a form of damage limitation and control in a necessary way. And whilst yes, it might screw over some people who may not have access anymore to the page, let's just put it that way, at least I can do my videos and show it to you if you don't have access or if you don't use Facebook. So there's always a way around it, just like how Reddit sometimes reposted stuff from Facebook in the past and archived it. It can be very helpful. I don't know how people manage to sieve through all the posts, because the longer the case goes on for, the more posts and discussions, the more convoluted it does get. I mean, there is a feature page I think you can implement. I saw it on the Dylan Rounds Legacy page, a featured page where you could add on like a timeline of key posts and photos and stuff. I don't know if that applies to Facebook groups. It might be different because groups are different to pages and some of the formats as well. I think on groups you can adjust the timing of when post came out, but maybe on a page you don't have that option, or at least it wasn't visible, or it wasn't in the same spot as when I was on the other one. So it can be a bit problematic, but I mean, previously it shows that it was already fragmented. You had a wave of resistance coming on in somewhat early, causing harm, causing disruption, causing maybe misdirection with claims, statements made, passing on second-hand, third-party information which may be very weak or doesn't hold much evidence and confidence, but at the same time maybe enough to convince people. And then that's like a plan implemented. And then if that didn't work, or there's a wave of pushback which is, right, let's make it private now, so it might go up people's backs within the case and think, right, we need to pretend to be someone else to be able to get access to get in. But then again, there's been a pushback since because people elsewhere have done the same to the Sofa Sleuth page. So it's like World War I or World War II, where you get different spies from opposing nations going at one another, gaining intel, then passing it back on to where they come from. It goes to show war never changes. But, you know, it's like that. I said, I've not been around from day one to see it all. With the Dylan Rounds case, I had a more complete understanding, and I was able to do it more efficiently with my more predictions with time and more of these type of videos, breakdowns. Now, this particular one may not be the smoothest, it may not be the clearest, but, you know, I'm trying to process everything that's happened over a long period of time, and majority of it I wasn't there to see it, right? So does that make me qualified to be able to speak or not? Well, yeah. And the reason why I can say that is because within a few months of just catching up on the case, at least, without doing too much research on the drama, that some weeks ago now, I think, yeah, maybe like 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, in one of my videos, I outright said it's now time for me to make predictions. And it happened within a day of making the predictions. That's what's crazy. Late to the case, don't know everything, trying to catch up with limited time, unaware of all the drama and conflict and how fragmented it really is, and all the tactics used previously, and yet what I predicted ended up happening. It says a lot. To do with the emotional side, the conflicts of interest, and those on the sideline that may be the problem but not currently causing the problems can just sit there, laugh, because it's a form of progress slowing down, coming to a halt. That's the other thing you can't let happen. Whereas there might be disagreements and there might be some inner conflict within a group and possible trust issues from pre-existing problems and pre-existing fractured events, maybe caused by the outsiders, those on the sideline. At this moment in time, those on the sideline are benefiting. It's like a coliseum. They're just sat in the crowd, cheering on, thinking, wow, look at all this chaos unfold upon us. This is great. And we don't have to do a thing. We don't have to lay a finger. Got to take that into mind. Next time something bad happens, just remind yourself, well, yes, the case is important and Noah's name is too, more important than the conflict and drama. Just maybe remind yourself that those on the sideline that are the real issue are laughing and enjoying this. Do you want them to have fun? Do you want them to enjoy it? Or do you want to piss them off and get it under control and keep moving forwards? Because then that will put them at unrest and it could mean that they slip up with time. There's that you got to take into consideration too. But in terms of my predictions, if it hasn't been made clear, a couple of weeks ago when I did give them, it was all because of the JJ bump ass situation and Dina Rose, where basically a lot of misinformation was mentioned by Dina Rose. A range of people who put Dina Rose on a pedestal previously were now questioning her and now defending JJ bump ass all of a sudden. Considering JJ bump ass was seen in the eyes by the public previously as suspicious, possible suspect maybe. Massive turnaround in a matter of a day or so, and it's like people just forgotten where they once were or what they once thought of that person. Goldfish mentality, just like the Dylan Rounds case. That was the first sign, the first indication behind me unlocking my predictions. When I see goldfish mentality, bit of an issue, possibly a bit of a red flag. When I see maybe some double standards and switches, sudden switches of attitudes, that's another problem. And I thought, right, before it gets any worse, let's do the predictions. And at least one of the predictions that I made was, this is the final stronghold truly on YouTube, this channel. But if things fall, if anything collapse or goes wrong, you can, you don't have to hit the floor. You can land softly on this channel and continue on if you want to, in the background or in the chat appropriately, within reason. I said that, things can implode on itself and go wrong, and it wouldn't surprise me if it did happen. And what happened? One day later, all shit broke loose. People switched and changed very quick, side taking very fast, cutting ties very fast, me getting questioned as well and attacked on YouTube with certain comments, me getting kicked off a page because of a petty Australian individual got a didgeridoo stuck somewhere and took it out on another person. So it escalated very quickly. You could say that the differences though with this case compared to the Dylan Rounds one is that the Dylan Rounds was constant, petty, on and on and on like a broken record. The Noah Presgrove situation is intense but short burst. It's not happening every day, but out of a month it could happen once or twice, pushing it for a short period. But it's intense and it's full on. With the Vanessa situation, that happened the next day after I gave my prediction of things going wrong, imploding, and it all going to shit. I indirectly predicted it would happen, even though I had no clue it was exactly going to happen, right? Am I a mind reader? I don't know at this point, but what I do know is I can predict negative events, and I do tend to be right. Does that reflect as me as in a person? Nope, not my choice, just happens. And yeah, you get some delusional positive people that say, actually, you need to reevaluate things. No, actually, you need to get pen and paper, make some notes, and get a grip and name we the people. Okay? Just checking if they're showing or not. And they are. Anyway, my predictions were on the spot, and what happened shortly afterwards was very sudden. No one could have anticipated it, or at least those who were kind of in the dark and within the public, away from certain pages and groups. Those wouldn't have any time to prepare or expect, but you can get the idea now that when I do some of the predictions, that maybe take it on board, take it in mind, because you never know what may happen the next day or day later or day after that. Dylan Round's case, I said what I said, it happened, some people listened, and that's why some people are still around till this day, such as on my channel. And the fact is that the ones that have remained on my channel from then have got common sense themselves and are good people. So that's always a key factor to take away too. It's not just one-sided, there's other things at hand. But I don't know, it's just like the patterns, the trends, just those little signs what I was looking for. Goldfish mentality, sudden switch in attitude or behaviour. Saw it in the Dylan Rounds case, saw the problems. Oh, side taking. Oh, changing allegiance. Oh, previously fragmented. Does the other one now? How long will that last for? Didn't last that long. So when it comes to these Facebook pages, not to be too negative, but not all are built to last. Some may have a shelf lifespan. It just depends who's present and how many. Too many hands do the dishes, it doesn't always work out well. Kenny Veach case, relatively okay, even if limited at times with material, because yeah, it's popular, but those actually working on the case or trying to make sense of it, not in big numbers. And to be fair, it's a good thing. Even when it comes to people going out there hiking, as demanding, as dangerous and rough as it is, those that can do it and are able, who do it by themselves, as impractical as that may sound to them individually, it's the most practical situation. All they have to do is care about themselves, look after themselves, and if they know that they can do it, they can do it. When there's other people present, you then the responsibility of looking after others. If they can't match your pace, they can't keep up with you, then you've got to slow down, then that will impact you as well. So too many people present makes it harder. Too many voices talking makes it difficult to understand what's going on, lacking that clarity. I mean, I've seen comments with time, oh no, it's good if there's lots of people present, it means there's more awareness, it means there's more this and that. I guess it depends how you look at it. Are there a lot of people present who are involved, or are there a lot of people present just as the audience? If it's just the audience, not as bad. Chip in with ideas, show some support, opinions, point out anything if you've noticed it, that can go a long way. But if that mass amount of people were actually physically involved, it could get a little bit messy. It's like putting 10,000 people into a tiny sweet shop, the equivalent of a bull in a pottery shop. Things are going to break. Someone's going to lose it. That is that to take in mind. The Kenny Veach case, explosive case, right? Video-wise, statistics-wise, some of my videos got over 100,000 views with time. The video that I did a couple of days ago, it's at 5,000, which shocked me because it normally doesn't go up that fast, that soon. It's a very slow burner. It eventually has its turn where it's put out there and people will watch, but it happens sudden, which is a positive, of course. It's nice to see, it's fun, it is, but that comes down to the audience. 5,000, 100,000 people watching, audience, that's good. It's not 100,000 people all involved in the case hiking or distributing stuff. That would be too messy. I think with the Dylan Rounds case, there was a handful of people, more than usual, physically involved somehow. And that's what created conflict. That's what created crossroads, and it impacted decision making and trust. With the Noah Presgrove case, I would say it's kind of the same, if not more, because with the Noah Presgrove case, there's just simply more people present. I think on the justice page, there's about 62,000 members, yet on the Dylan Rounds case, there was about 25,000 members. So I'd probably say that the Dylan Rounds case was smaller, not as popular, but maybe it reached the attention of the news faster than the Noah Presgrove one has. That's what I think in a way. You know, when it comes to reporting on the case, I've not seen as much media coverage of Noah, unless you was just to take in mind the articles. I don't know, it might also just be because of Candice Cooley in the Dylan Rounds case, who was very vocal, spreading awareness, her disapproval towards how the Ellie have handled things. So that was probably that extra boost and push, whereas in the Noah Presgrove case, certain family members may have a different way of going about things, not as publicly vocal, but privately doing stuff. It differs from case to case, people to people, and how they react and respond, so you might get a different outcome. But like, whether it be Dylan Rounds, whether it be Noah Presgrove, lacking press conferences, press releases, they always seem to be lacking. But why? And why is it this pattern of, oh, a 19-year-old male ends up dead? Is that a pattern as well? Aidan Clune, 19-year-old, missing person. Dylan Rounds, once missing, 19-year-olds, and then obviously found dead, murdered. Noah Presgrove, possibly murdered, 19-year-old. All males, all white. Makes you think, are the patterns? And as well, all in rural areas. And there's probably more named cases as well, but, you know, I'm only covering and mentioning the ones that I've looked into and have an idea about, okay? But I just wanted to throw that out there. Getting a little bit of a dry mouth now. Give me a second. Are there any other issues that can be fixed? So in terms of those within the case, and maybe fake accounts, once doing it then, no longer can because of groups going private. Do they seek elsewhere? Alternative pages? Do they set up their own? Maybe they set up their own. How do you counter that? I don't even know if you can report pages or groups on Facebook and if it actually works. I'm not too sure about that. But this is the thing. Technically speaking, whilst at times you'll get resistance, it's not always a good idea to push back, because they may be doing it because they want a reaction from you, so then they get satisfaction from it. Like a trap, luring someone in. And maybe people have tried that with me. Yeah, I think so. Whether that be trying to drain energy out of one, whether that be other things, whether that be the past, whether it be the future, who knows? But I think when the instincts kick in, I think they're too sharp. I think, honestly, my instincts are too sharp for my own good. Does that sound dodgy? I don't know, I don't really care, but it's like, if I lock in too much, if I pick up on too much, I know too much, and then what do you do then? And I'm not talking about the case, I'm just talking about in general. It's not positive, it's not. But either way, when you do apply it to a case, it can help and it can be good. So I've already given some big tips with a P, tips. If you want to take it in mind, you can. Will it happen again in the future? Well, if certain methods, steps are taken now, it may not happen as much in the future. In terms of the responses to the resistance, pushback with resistance against resistance, is it always a good idea to resist against yourself? Is it a good idea to resist against other resistance? Depends. It's like with, when I come across resistance, I defend myself. I'm not pushing it back, I'm not attacking back, I'm just simply holding it from getting any closer, the trouble. Hold it long enough, it dissolves, right? You can defend yourself, you can put a message across, you can clear the problem without having to attack. Defending yourself can be more practical than attacking. You're not matching the same energy levels as them. They may want you to match them. They may want you to duel with them. Now, do I want to be having a duel? Am I going to be having a duel with Miriam inside of a palace, fencing with pointed tips, wearing that fencing gear? No, because I'm shit at fencing. Okay, Miriam would probably still destroy me with a wooden spoon. Okay, and probably cooking at the same time. I wouldn't stand a chance. So, is it a matter of picking your battles? You don't have to pick your battles if you don't really want to or don't need to go to war in the first place. A person can attack you, war can come your way. You can defend yourself without too much force. But a form of clarity, a form of consistency and depth, and it dissolves the problem. It can be a stamina war. If you've got enough stamina and you can hold out against this resistance long enough, they could get bored. And no, this isn't as delusional as a high school situation of bullying where you got someone out there bullying you, and then what does a teacher or a delusional positive person say? Oh, never mind, just keep on going. It will go away, they'll get bored. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It could even aggravate the situation and think, well, there's not much response coming out. We need to crank it up to get a response out of them. Different reactions, different responses to different situations. It's not always the same. And there's a lot of ignorant people out there that don't understand those different dynamics. But luckily, I do. That's what makes it under control. So sometimes matching someone's energy. Oh my God, there's a ginger cat on the shed. That's distracted me, that. Apologies. What's ginger cat getting about? What's going to happen next? It's going to appear behind me. No, because gingers don't get near to me. They must be scared. I don't know. Don't always match your energy with theirs. Use a lower frequency and counter them without exerting too much energy. There you go. This is it. Whilst we can talk about the conflict and drama as to what's happened, when it's happened, where and how, can you prevent it in the past? What can you do right now to change it? Without using too much energy. That's the other factor. This separates me from most humans out there just based off a fact that if it comes to advice, if it comes to a tip, if it comes to basic positivity, the darkest person in the room, myself, an individual that saw the devil when I was a child in the woodland, yet I still end up being basic positivity, which is more effective than all of the delusional humans out there. And that is efficiency with energy. How do you use it? How do you apply it? And can it be used at times when dealing with resistance and darkness out there, regardless of the threat level? Because whilst you can go silent, there can be a snowball effect. Just like when it comes to defending myself. Oh, don't be defending yourself. It's not worth your time. It's taking it away from the case. And I'm like, screw that shit. I'm done with this like gay shit. Not gay shit, like petty shit. My God. We need to get a grip right now, and no slapping needed because my face is not soft at this moment, so it'll hurt my soft hands. Anyway, when it comes to matching energy, when it comes to conservation of energy, I've done previous videos about it, okay, on my channel with other cases. You don't do shit, things can escalate, things can get worse. Oh, bad things happen to me or said, whatever, I don't defend myself. Oh, some people could think, well, silence means being guilty. And other people could think being silent means just getting on with things and not making a big fuss about it. It goes off different ways. If you can defend yourself, just to clear the record, set things straight, and more so for new people that come along, new impressionable audiences. If they don't hear from you first, but they hear from elsewhere, they're gonna have a bad impression of you. So when you do explain yourself, they're probably not gonna even listen. At the end of the day, maybe you shouldn't feel like you have to do it, but it depends what position you're in. If you're a piss pot, maybe you don't need to do it. If you're just not a YouTuber, you may not need to do it. If you're not really that well known, you don't really need to do it. But because I do YouTube, because I will have some kind of audience and maybe others in the future, there's no harm in spreading a bit of awareness. If there's time to spread awareness on a case, there should be equal time to spread awareness of my situation or someone else's. right? And it all comes down to the energy. So I can do a video about conflict drama. I can also do a video about something else going on. I can do a video about the case too. There's been times where bad things have happened and I still found time within the same day to do a video about the case. So if I can still cover the case, but I can also do other things which may not be seen as important, then why is it really a problem? It's not. And the only reason why it can be done to that extent is because there's a level of energy conservation at times when it's most needed. So when it comes to drama and conflict, you may want to respond, you may want to voice your opinion or state the facts, but do you really want to use all the energy up when you could be using it up on the case itself, which is more important? But then you compromise. Just use a little bit of energy and do not match yourself to the same intensity as the dark forces along the way. Just like with the strategies of what they may implant at times, you don't match the same strategies. You think of counter strategies for a more effective outcome. It's all under control. I can visualize it in my mind, but I don't know if anyone else can with like how I'm trying to explain the situation. But like what I mentioned earlier about you might have intel, you might have knowledge, not within the case, but externally within the community. How do you go about it? Do you use the same methods which the other bad people did? Or is that just as reckless? That's like matching the same energy. Find an alternative. There is an alternative. Like with YouTube, there's a problem on there or a problem with someone, there are options: block, report, something else, create a different account, be default, keep quiet, lay down. There's just different methods, which is obviously a good thing. Maybe try and use them. But to return back to when people have said, right, okay, so you can balance, you can spin multiple plates at once while still covering the case, so you're not taking focus directly away from it. Is it just practical enough? Well, to be honest, being realistic when doing the response videos to the drama and the conflict, it's really not using up any energy. I don't really feel much, right? When I've done, as you know, as funny as they may be and kind of light-hearted and oh, we can all piss about, ha ha ha, being honest, when it comes to those healing videos, it can be quite tiring to do. Not in the moment, but afterwards. Because if it is supposedly true that I have healed people, that's what people have said when they've reached out to me. If my videos have helped people, then that's obviously a good thing, but at what cost? Well, I guess when healing and extracting anything from within me somehow, somewhere, and it being put into someone else, and I'm not talking about time, I'm talking about actual physical energy and things being used up. It's kind of like draining myself, sacrificing myself for someone else. It sounds very far-fetched, but you know, on the basis that it's all true and that it does happen, you're putting a lot of like intensity, focus, and concentration, using up a lot more energy. If you just simply sat back, laid back, casual, talking in more of a monotone voice without all the accents, the impressions, without all the slapping and playing games and all that random shit, you're just casually talking, you're not using up as much energy. It's like within a football match, a person could run up and down, they might not get really anywhere and they'll probably tire quicker. Then you've got an alternative player that stops, walks about, and then makes their runs when needed, to conserving that energy. So you can go longer, you can last longer, which means it's a stamina war. As long as you don't match other people's energy, you find your own alternative ways in response, you can defend without attacking, you're going to drain the opposition. Oh, are humans now going to use that against me? Oh no. Is that what humans tried doing in the past? Better not happen. It better not happen. I'll be very disappointed. So that's the other thing you got to be careful of too. It's okay giving out lots of ideas, but it can be used against you as well. It's like with when you might get the master and the student. Okay, the master knows it all, teaches that student, and maybe at some point that student gets too powerful, takes over. Bad things happen. But if you can update with time, there can still be a counter somewhere. But as well, that's why it needs to be vague. I mean, like, if humans fail to match another person, as in impersonating one another, then they probably fail here as well, so no issues. We talk about fake profiles different to default profiles. You can pretend to be someone else and there's alternative reasons for it, but a default profile could be very basic. You've just got a profile because you've got no choice. You have to have one in order to access certain stuff, but you don't want it to come with all the fuss and the excess baggage. But when you might get a fake profile with the intent of being someone when it's not really them, it can be very disheartening in some circumstances. More importantly, within a case, it can create a lot of trust issues. And how do you counter that in the future? How do you know who's real and who's not? And you know what? One thing I'm sick of hearing, because humans like to do it in life, is online is bad, in real life is better. It doesn't fucking matter. If a human is present, if there is a living organism present, they can be good, they can be bad, either in real life or online. If you was to say that people in real life are better than if you used to come across them online, that's not exactly a good selling point. All it means is who you see in real life is actually fake. Who you see online is their true self of what they want to be and what they want to show and demonstrate because of less consequences. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes you see the dark side of someone online, it's something that you wouldn't see in real life until it's too late. So that's worth taking in mind as well. And I said it doesn't matter where you are, if humans are present, no matter how far away they are or how close they are, they can be twats. Twats are twats. Simple as. Doesn't take much effort either. And maybe at times it's a personal choice, but unfortunately, maybe a high proportion, you know, within this world at least, or my country. But the way I see it, I think it's under control here. With the case, with the channel. Do I think it's under control with other pages? I don't know if there's like a rebuild process at the moment where people are gathering up the ashes and what's been burnt down and trying to rebuild something out of material that isn't strong enough to hold its own weight and support itself with time. You've seen it in the past where you could have a mirror, it looks fine, it looks perfect, and when it shatters, when it's destroyed, people start gluing it all back together, but you see all the cracks, it remains, it'll never fix, it'll never be the same again. Is that like how it is now with the atmosphere of this community? A Mexican standoff, crossroads, who knows? Can these smaller sub-cell division groups or smaller groups, individuals, where there's a stronger bound of trust and positivity towards a case? Who knows? It's in its early stages, to be honest. All I know is, at least when it comes to YouTube, I'm one person with a channel and a range of people watch and share their thoughts along the way. Now, does that mean there's like a hierarchy? No, it's just that I create the videos, I give my thoughts, and then people add on in the comments. And it works. It has worked, and it will always work to an extent. When everybody's all on the same level, who all have the same access and access to possible tools, that's when it might become a problem. And that's what you might see more so on Facebook. Or you appoint someone a moderator, you think the problems that can come with that, you're giving someone a form of power, it could get to their head, they could get a little bit petty and take it out on someone. Now you, the one that appointed them as a mod, you can get backlash for it as well and questioned. That's why when it comes to my channel on YouTube, there is really no need for moderators at this moment in time. If I had 1,000+ people watching live, then I'd probably consider it, possibly. But in the moment, there's just no need, because most people can control themselves. And when I do come across some tossers, prats, plums, well, they don't stick around that long. I've seen it. I've seen some very dodgy people with time. They don't stick around. Either they piss off, they get scared, they get creeped out, they get bored, whatever. I mean, there are certain factors which haven't taken place within this case. The Noah's Ark effect hasn't taken place. The worm effect could. third party people can order me to block this person and block that person. Why not just block them yourself? If I block them, no one can see them. If I block the resistance, if I push the resistance away, it could go for good or it could just disappear. Oh, that's a good thing. No, because whilst there might be a problem or there might be a dark force, you don't want to push it back too much because it could go underground completely and then you don't know its movements, you don't know the whereabouts, you don't know what would happen next. I know they say keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but if you don't have friends in the first place in real life, and if you've got enemies though, at any point, any time, it all comes down to what country. Of course, if you're from the US and you're covering US cases, you are more of a target. Just like how if I was to cover cases to do with the UK, I could be a target, and I don't think that's exactly practical. But you don't have to keep your enemies too close, or the darkness, but you want it within reach just so you can see and hear any issues. Yeah, it might be a negative reminder and it might get annoying, but at least you know what to expect next. In a way, it's when you can't see what's coming, you don't know what's around the corner. And whilst when it comes to positive situations, it can be exciting, it can be a miracle, all kinds of stuff can come out of it good. But with the bad things, it's messed up, it can be twisted, it can cause more damage. It's like with, what was I saying in the past with just like certain encounters? If you were negative about the possible outcome of something, when it does actually happen, you won't be too surprised. And it's like, oh, well, I kind of expected it. If you're very positive and hopeful, and then it went wrong, then it's going to shock you more. It's going to knock you back more. Not everyone's going to agree with it. That's fine. There was a bit more to it, but I can't remember it all. All I know was one method was a win-win, the other one was a win-lose. And which one would you rather have? Does this community have to have a negative outcome? No, but does it feel like that's the direction it's heading in? In a way, yeah. But maybe things start getting back under control. Can I make any predictions? Newer ones now. All I'll say is, if by a few months' time and the case is still ongoing and the same rhetoric is used, as in, guys, we need to gather back together, we need to focus on what's important and what's at hand, and that's the case of Noah. If that line sentence is used again, well, then we know that that hope has gone to an extent. As for the justice page, as quiet and still as it is, I wouldn't say it's really imploded over there as much. Only at the time of the coming up to the 1 year anniversary, I believe, but after that it's kind of really quietened down. But sometimes the waves, the backlash in burst, not always. It could be a Caden Pressey interview which causes and stirs things, stirs the darkness. It could be like a video message by Ashley Chadwick, or maybe even Robin Smith and anyone else in between. Things like that trigger a reaction. Kind of like the equivalent of the Dylan Rounds case, when I did a video, I did an analysis, I made a comparison, and then it led to a wave of resistance. Not as much with Noah Presgrove in recent time, but it definitely happened with the Dylan Rounds case. How was it countered? It wasn't really. It was just a stamina war. They could only go on for so long, they could only talk for so long, I could keep on going. Oh, is that down to full-on positivity? No, it's not. It's just fucking moving forwards like a rhino. Someone said that my back, the skin's like of a rhino, a bit like leathery or something, I don't know. Whatever. I've got no horns, not yet. Unless they end up growing somewhere. But, you know, the act of the light-hearted stuff, and it doesn't have to be the whipping stuff. That's probably a bit more abstract, but just like, you know, the odd little nickname, the odd little accent, sound, exaggerating a person's comment if it's in capital letters. That's what's needed, right? Is it matching the same levels of energy as the immature, infantile-like behaviour of those within the case, the problem? where they may respond back with lots of emojis, crying, laughing, degenerate type, millennial like, Gen Z type, whatever like behavior. Sheepish language, absolutely. I detest sheepish language. I try not to use it myself. When people use the word mental health, no. Psychological issues. When people say unalive, no. Suicide. When people say another form of death, no, murder. You know, I know maybe certain platforms you can't say certain things. When people say grapes, we're not talking about the fruits, they're referring to rape. But, oh, you get punished if you say it. Well, maybe it depends when you say it and the context regarding it. I've not been silenced too much by that. I've been silenced more so over silly reasons, more so. There's no consistency there. But I guess it is what it is. Is there anything else to mention or highlight? I mean, you can always leave your comments down below. But what really happens next? Well, I've got the video ideas to cover on the case. Some maybe creative, others just basic, but you can only do so much, but there might be waves and periods where there are additional news, maybe some breaking news. It could be one of those things where you're wanting answers, you're waiting, you're expecting, and when it does come about, you're still going to be shocked, still going to take you off guard, possibly. Things like that do happen. It happened within the Dylan Brown's case, despite all the focus about it. Is there any way of summarising this video at the end of the day? You got Facebook, is mainly the key place. Reddit, on the sideline, but good. Smaller group, less chaotic, bit more focused at times. YouTube, kind of the same way. A little bit bigger just because of the platform itself and the reach. Facebook, main place. But within Facebook, several pages. Where do you go? What do you look at? Oh, you go to the true page, the family run one. But there's no harm in checking the army page or the odd sub one, just in case there's some additional details, screenshots which have been posted or reposted, which you may have never seen before. If you just relied on the justice page, it'd be pretty flat because there's not much coming out from there. And maybe for good reason, but still, if you want some kind of up-to-date coverage, day-to-day discussions within reason, that's just not the place. And it's not to say that it's a bad place, but you know, you want a bit more activity, you'd have to look at some of the more informal places where it's not as strict, the moderation up to a point in time, and so on. So that's really it. A lot of people. All I can say is that the community aspect of this case is a microcosm of the party. Many people present, higher chances of conflict, higher chances of just chaos at any point it can happen. Supposedly with it happening previously in the past when I wasn't present, and it's happening again, well, it kind of shows that history has repeated itself, but ever since I've been present, it'll be interesting to see if in the future history repeats itself or not. So anyone that is watching along the way, you know, you did take any notes or any predictions, you could maybe apply it to the future and change it up a bit and see how things go. If it works, good, and if it doesn't, well, maybe try something else, trial and error. But either way, if there is something to cover, I'll cover it, and it doesn't matter how chaotic or how messy it gets elsewhere, even if it's all on Facebook or if it's on TikTok. If it all shuts down, if it all goes downhill, there's still YouTube, there's still this channel, and there's still things to talk about. Yeah, things can get limited in information and points, but oh well, it doesn't matter. And yes, I am a hybrid channel, if people didn't know, and I don't just focus on true crime, I cover mysteries as well. So if there is unrest with time with certain concepts or videos, tough shit, it's natural selection. Natural selection, but hybrid, under control. We'll leave it there for now. I think I might do another video or so pre-recorded for tomorrow for certain reasons. You know, with a short span of time on this case and the community, I can only do and say so much with these type of videos. You look back at the Dylan Rounds one, it might sound a bit more refined, a bit more polished, but that's over a year or two of me sticking with a case non-stop and observing all the behaviour, the body language, a lot more to work with, a lot longer to process, not this time round. So that's why it may differ. But still, I think there were some key points to take away. You can let me know how it goes and we'll see what happens next. But, still focused on the case. But I'm still interested in Kenny Veach with the recent stuff that's come out. And wow, that needs to be acknowledged. So I'm going to give some time to that too. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.